Oh, man. Get your news on with Ron. Good to see everybody. Good morning. Happy Music Monday. And excuse me while I clear my throat. Let's see what people are already sending in. Looks like there's some not so good news here about Aretha Franklin. And excuse me, we'll be talking about that for Music Monday. Of course. What's up, Uriel? You are first. What's up, Edwin? I am back. Howdy, howdy. Sorry, I'm actually a few minutes late. Mike, I'd imagine that frowny face is for Aretha Franklin. This is my first time hearing about it. I've not heard about it yet. Or, I mean, until now. So we'll see what's going on there. But that is rather unfortunate. All right. We're almost at 30, right? Frederick, I just woke up too. Daniel, thank you. It's not me. A couple people already tweeted some Aretha Franklin stuff. So that is definitely something that's going to be talked about. We're at 31. All right, you guys got up to it quicker than me. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? You guys know what that means. That means you guys tweet me articles, we go through them, and that's how we make the show. Or you post them in our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we make the show. So, today is Music Monday. You guys know that. Today's Music Monday. And you guys, a couple people already tweeted some not so good news about Aretha Franklin. We'll get to that in just a moment here. But first, Steven tweeted some recommended listening. We're going to go over to that first. And then what we're going to do after that, we'll talk a little bit about our recommended listening. And then it looks like we're going to Aretha Franklin shortly after that. But now, guys, keep in mind, I can't play music because of copyright issues on YouTube. I can't just play music. But I can show you the information about it if you want to listen to it on your own. So we'll do that instead. That'll have to be a worthy substitute, if you will. So here's something Steven's listening to right now. Frank Zappa, eat that question. You know, I was having a conversation about Frank Zappa recently with some friends of mine. We were having a conversation about Zappa, and they were kind of saying how he was like not the greatest dude in the world. And I forget what they pointed to exactly, but they were kind of talking about like his business acumen and stuff like that. And Frank Zappa, very much so, was a businessman. And what I said to that, I was like, look, if it wasn't for that business acumen, though, we wouldn't know who Captain Beefheart is. We wouldn't have had a lot of great records. He kind of took this kind of arty, atmospheric subgenre, whatever you want to call what Frank Zappa and those guys were doing, and he really made it its own thing, promoted it, released it. So say what you want about maybe his shrewdness as a businessman, but in many regards, when you lay it all out, Frank Zappa was what I like to refer to as the good alpha. Meaning, yes, he did have that alpha business acumen, and without it, we wouldn't have gotten Captain Beefheart. And a lot of other stuff too, but Captain Beefheart, just on its own, come on. You gotta kind of take the good with the bad in there and be like, you know what? I totally accept Zappa for what he was as a businessman because he gave us Captain Beefheart. You know? So thank you for the recommended listening, Steven. I enjoy me some Frank Zappa. I enjoy me some Captain Beefheart. It's not the most digestible listening, so it's not something that I visit daily by any means, but it's certainly something I appreciate, something I celebrate. And I remember I was so bummed out the day, who was, and I'm forgetting which member of the band it was off the top of my head, because this was a couple years ago, but one of the members of Beefheart died, and I think it was the main guy. And I remember I was just driving in the car, I think with my dad, and he just kind of had FM radio on, and the DJ was like, just so kind of like, yeah, so a guy from Captain Beefheart's dead. I never really understood what he was trying to do, but he's dead. And it was so like, I was like, seriously, man? And it's okay if you don't get Captain Beefheart. A lot of people didn't, and if you're a DJ on the air, I feel like you kind of got to be honest with it, but you couldn't have just been, you still could have said how influential it was. You still could have said, look, it wasn't my cup of tea, I didn't quite get it, but if as far as its place in music history, it really has its place. And here's why. Here's why it was celebrated. Here are some of the people that really celebrated it. Quote Matt Groening from The Simpsons. Matt Groening had one of the best assessments of Captain Beefheart I ever heard. He said, the first time I listened to them, I thought, this is the worst music I've ever frickin' heard in my life. The second time I listened to them, I said, oh, this is even worse than I thought it was the first time. The third time I listened to them, I said, this is the best album I've ever heard. And I still feel that way to this day. That's a light paraphrase of what Matt Groening from The Simpsons, creator of The Simpsons, said about Captain Beefheart. So throw that quote in there. Throw that quote in there. You don't have to just say, I didn't get it, and leave it there. You can say, look, I didn't get it. It's not for me, but this is what it meant to a lot of people. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm being nitpicky. So, before we move on to Aretha Franklin, does anyone have any other listener recommendations for me? Or for the community, rather. Not just for me. Everybody sees it in the chat. What are y'all listening to? Lone Star Progressive makes a fun analogy that I really like. It's like the first time I saw Rocky Horror, didn't get it, now I love it so much. I'm with you. I mean, for me, Rocky Horror, I really understood it when I saw it live. The first time I saw the movie, I was like, this is okay. I get it why it's kind of a cult classic thing. But, you know. Edwin, The Regrets, that is an excellent recommendation. For anyone that's not familiar, The Regrets are an all-female punk band out of where I live, Los Angeles. They're local here to Los Angeles. And they are like 15 or 16 years old. And they're freaking amazing. They are really fucking good. Just really great pop-punk tunes. And they're really tearing it up. Let's see. William Elliott Whitmore. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to check it out. A Perfect Circle. I never got into A Perfect Circle, but I'll have to check it out. Wildlife by La Dispute. The Interrupters. I'm gonna get to see The Interrupters in October. I'm so stoked. I really like those guys as well. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, classic. Andrew Bird. You know, I used to listen to Andrew Bird a good bit, and then I kind of got off the wagon. I should probably get back on. Counting Crows, classic. When I was in grade school, I played Rain King at the school talent show. Well, not just me. I was in a band, and we played Rain King, and we played Daylight Fading. We played 2 Counting Crows tunes. I was in 7th grade. Honestly, guys, it's been downhill ever since. Mr. Broken Eyes, have you heard of Idea and Abilities? No, I'm not. Oh, I guess that means you pronounce it idea. That's very clever. I like it. EYEDEA and Abilities. I've not heard of them, but I should check it out. Thank you for the Super Chat contribution. And guys, let's unfortunately, we got some not so good music news today. Aretha Franklin is gravely ill. The Queen of Soul is asking for prayers. You know, I do not pray, but I feel like if I was going to make an exception, it'd be for like if Aretha Franklin sang to me how important prayer is, I'd buy it. That's how good she is. She'd be like, "Look, prayer," and I'd be like, "All right, you've sold me." Like if she wrote a song where it's like, "Ron, you should pray. Ron, you should pray," I'd be like, "All right, you're right. I got it wrong. I'm going to." Do you believe something? No, I still don't. But I remember when I got a couple years ago, I got into a really bad car accident, and at the time I was a road comic, so I pretty much lived on the road, going from gig to gig, and I got in a really bad car accident. My car got totaled, and it kind of sidelined me. I couldn't work, but I was okay. Like I got through it, and I could have been really seriously injured, but I wasn't. And I remember one of my friends, a comic buddy of mine, he's an older guy and a very religious dude, and he had to pay me for a gig I did for him. And the entire time he was talking about how I wasn't injured, and he was like, "Ron," and he kept pointing up to the ceiling because he knew I didn't believe in, a supreme being. I'm kind of agnostic about it, and he kept pointing up. He's like, "Ron, someone was looking after you. Ron," and I was like, "Hey, who am I to call you a liar?" Anyway, all right. So not so good news here. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, is gravely ill. Her family told Local 4 on Monday. So Franklin, 76, was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1942. The daughter of the famous pastor and civil rights activist C.L. Franklin. When Aretha was just 2, the family left Memphis for the New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit. And a Motor City legend was ready to be born. I'll tell you what. If anyone wants to say, like, fate's a thing, man, that's a good example that she just so happened to end up in Detroit, the Motor City, the home of Motown, and she had those pipes, and she hit that music scene. Man, what a special time. What a special place. What would it have been like to be a fly on the wall during all that, you know? During Aretha Franklin coming up in the Motor City. The shows that they used to have in that town. The town was booming because there was a strong middle class. Unions protected them. And Aretha Franklin was freaking doing her thing. Man. If I had a time machine, there's a lot I would do. But one of the things I would do when I just wanted to have a damn good weekend, I would go to Detroit during the boom of Motown for a weekend, and I would just see what shows were playing. Franklin has the 3rd most Grammy Awards for any female artist in history. In an interview last year, Franklin said she plans to retire after the release of her new album. "I must tell you, I am retiring this year." Franklin said she was exuberant about her new studio album and can't wait to get into the studio. You know what's interesting here? Some people, when you're Aretha Franklin or you're an artist of any sort and you really love what you do, and your life, your work is kind of your life, but when I say that, I mean it in a positive way. You know, like it's what's that cliche where it's like you're doing what you love, so you really never work another day in your life. When that's the case for you, sometimes when you decide to step away from it, your body shuts down. Because it's not like you were just working a job that you weren't passionate about and you finally get to retire and you're stoked you don't have to go there anymore. It's your life was creating, and creating kind of just breathed life into you. So the idea of walking away from it maybe can cause your body to shut down. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously it's a psychological thing. It's not like there's any science backing that up, but I do think that that's a common thing that happens. Now, going on that, she did make it clear she wasn't retiring completely. She said she would do some select things. Many one a month for 6 months out of the year. But she said her grandchildren are leaving for college, and she wants to spend time with them. And it's bittersweet because it's what she's done all her life. Well, I mean, it looks like that she's probably not going to be with us much longer. I mean, that's just, you know, I mean, it looks like, according to this article, the writing's pretty much on the wall. Aretha Franklin will likely be passing soon. I never got the opportunity to see her live. You guys in the chat, let me know. If you got to see Aretha Franklin live, please let us know about it in the chat. She is definitely an artist to be celebrated on so many levels. You know, when you think about what went down in Detroit and the beauty of all that. And it's so bittersweet because that city has in so many ways always been the underdog, has really pulled itself up by its bootstraps and continues to be a flourishing artistic hub. Obviously, it's not what it was back in the Motown days, but it's still fighting, and it's one of my favorite cities in the country for many reasons. And Aretha Franklin was one of the tops of all that, you know. I never got to see her live. Let's see if any of you guys did. I'd be curious to know. I think Bob Dylan will die on stage like a boss. You might be right. Brian says, touring is hard. She's a rock star of life. Absolutely. Kate, yes. So, Kate, have you seen her live? Daily Dope Show points out Detroit is still rad, Ron. I know that. Abso-freaking-lutely. Please come here and do a show. I'm coming. Detroit, I am coming. So Graham Elwood and I are definitely doing a Midwest leg next year, probably in the spring or summer, because I ain't coming up there in the winter. I am not coming there in the winter. But, yeah, Detroit is definitely on the list. Chicago is on the list. Minneapolis is on the list. Indianapolis is on the list. Bloomington, Indiana is hopefully on the list because I went to college there. I really want to get there. But you know what? Detroit. I really want to go to Detroit. I haven't performed in Detroit in over 2 years. It's been 2 years since I performed in Detroit. And the last time I performed there didn't go that well, actually. I had a bad set. Kate, are you going to Italy with Jimmy on vacation? Yeah, they're bringing me along. They're like, Ron, it's not vacation without you. They're bringing everybody. They're bringing the entire staff. No, I'm not going on vacation with Jimmy and his wife. Be a little weird if I was invited. Balthazar, sorry to burst Ron's bubble. Science applies there too. I'm sure it does. I mean, I can't point to it directly, but I'm sure it does. Marcus, any upcoming interviews you have to look forward to, Ron? Yes, we are going to get somebody from public banking this week, And we are going to have an MMT professional come on probably the week after that. So we're going to have some more kind of activist-y type people. And, yeah, we're going to have public banking this week. I don't have the details on that yet because Pasta hasn't nailed it in. But we're also going to have an MMT professional. So, you know, we're going to learn a little bit about MMT. And it should be pretty fun. So, yes, Marcus is the answer to that. So this is from David. Let me go ahead and give this a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. Tornadoes on the East Coast may be a sign of things to come. All right. Let's see if this is the beginning. Sorry about that. A tornado, albeit a weak one, touched down in New York City last Thursday in the College Point neighborhood of Queens. A few days earlier, a stronger tornado was spotted near the town of Douglas in central Massachusetts. And a few days later, a whirlwind whipped through nearby Webster, displacing dozens of people from their damaged homes. The storms were far from the region in the middle of the country known as Tornado Alley, where the bulk of the nation's tornadoes occur. In a summer already marked by simmering heat that researchers have linked to global warming, is climate change also making tornadoes more common in places where they once were infrequent? Though individual weather events are distinct from the more broadly climate change, global warming does influence weather patterns. Now that is a fun little tidbit people love to forget about. You know what I mean? Like whenever weather patterns increase, i.e. snow. Like whenever there's more severe snow, people love to go, where are you now, global warming? I guess it is a hoax. No. Global warming also impacts weather patterns. So yes, we will see some more severe snow. That will happen too. Al Gore clarified that in the movie years ago. And it wasn't Al Gore that made that connection. Scientists did. I mean, he just kind of put it on a major platform. You know what I mean? But years ago, they clarified that. But still, I mean, there's still that one Republican congressman. Every year, he shows up to a meeting with a snowball in his hand. Like, oh, this means climate change isn't real. I have a snowball and I'm, To him, that's a political act of defiance to that person. I forget the guy's name. It's not important. It's not important unless someone's primarying him out that's worth voting for. That's the only way it's important to know who that guy is. Because obviously he's not somebody that should be listening to him. Look at my snowball. That means climate change isn't happening. Even though, actually, that there's going to be more severe weather patterns, and that includes snow, you dope. No, look, I can throw it. All right, still. So I guess now they're looking for a link between tornadoes. Tornadoes are the kind of extreme event where we have the least confidence in our ability to attribute the odds or characteristic of individual events to an influence of global warming. Tornadoes are the kind of extreme event where we have the least confidence in our ability to attribute the odds or characteristics of individual events to an influence of global warming. You know what? I hate to sound a little anti-intellectual here, but, you know, academia, maybe if you could just speak in a little more plain, regular people terms, you'd have more of an appeal. This is Noah Diffenbaum, a professor of Earth System Science at Stanford University. Noah decided to say to the press, tornadoes are the kind of extreme event where we have the least confidence in our ability to attribute the odds or characteristics of individual events to an influence of global warming. Okay, here's what he could have said. Tornadoes are pretty extreme, and they're difficult to measure just because of the way that they are. So it's a lot harder for us to find commonalities to be able to link them to global warming. Is that a little bit... Who talks like that just for the hell of it? This guy, apparently. And I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm losing my voice. Sorry. Here, hold on. I got to clear my throat. Let me mute the microphone. All right. I hope I was actually muted there. I just realized that there's a chance the webcam might have picked it up anyway. But whatever. Now here, Dr. Diffenbaum's able to talk like a regular human. If a tornado happens and no one was there to observe it, then it wasn't counted. I.e., they're not able to catch every tornado. So they're trying to find some commonalities, and the verdict is still out. David, thank you for sharing that. Let's see what else you guys got going on. I have a feeling they're going to find out that, yes, there is a connection. You know what I mean? Like, I have a feeling they're going to find out there's a connection between global warming and more severe tornadoes and more tornadoes in other places. I think they haven't quite found the indisputable link yet, but I think they will. I think it's only a matter of time. David, thank you for sharing that article. This one's from Seawalk. We're going to go over to a Seawalk. Give it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. And it looks like there's more climate change news. I guess it's, you guys are in a climate change mood today. What's starting all these wildfires? We are. Dun, dun, dun. Humans caused 90% of all the wildfires in 2/3 of the state. And the state in reference here, as they scroll down a little bit, they're talking about California, my state of residence. While weather is driving the severity of California's wildfire, new research shows that people ignite a lot more fires than nature does. And, come on, really? Go away. I don't know how I reached my 30-day limit on this because oh, wow, and it just locked me out of it. Okay. All right, cool. We're moving on. Sorry about that. So it looks like people are causing the fires. There you go. We got a little bit of election news here from Marcus. Let me go ahead and get this a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. And by the way, recommend a good ad blocker to me. I got to get one on my browser. I don't know how I reached my 30 article limit on a website I've not been to my knowledge, but what are you going to do? All right, so this is from Markets. The Republican Governors Association is pounding Ben Jealous with attack ads. Where are the Democrats? The Republican Governors Association is pounding Ben Jealous with attack ads and has no plans to stop. The deep-pocketed GOP organization, which is backing Republican Governor Larry Hogan, spent about $1 million on television ads last month to brand the Democratic nominee Tax and Spend Ben Jealous, who would blow a Chesapeake Bay-sized hole in the state's budget and destroy our economy. That's more spending on media in a month than Jealous spent during his year-long primary campaign. All right, so they're in the new ad, they're calling Ben Jealous too extreme for Maryland, and they're suggesting the Democrats are abandoning him. Interesting. So what's happening here? All right, so let's see what the Democrats are saying in response. The Democrats say they plan to help the Jealous campaign, but they're not running ads yet. They say they're waiting until later in the campaign. They're probably going to wait until about November 7th. We all know that the Democrats are experts at strategy, and they are really good at taking defeat from the jaws of victory. And they are the Washington Generals of politics, which is an insult to the Washington Generals because the Washington Generals are at least fun to watch. So probably on November 7th, the Democrats will start running ads for Ben Jealous. Now, what's really interesting here is that Republicans are now using the fact that the Democratic establishment is turning its back on progressives. They're using that to their advertising advantage by saying, oh, look, the Democrats are abandoning this person because they're so extreme. Even though that they favor the policies most people want. Most people want what Ben Jealous is about. And he's not extreme at all. He has a background as a venture capitalist. Extreme by them means the big socialist buzzword. He's not. He just supports progressive policies that other countries take for granted. So now Republicans are using that to their advantage, which from a political advertising standpoint, that makes a lot of sense and is very smart. Will it work in Maryland? It's tough to say. I think Ben Jealous is very popular there. I think he definitely does have a strong support base there. But there's still a long time until November. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Mike points out, Ben Jealous is not extreme. He won't even pretend to be a Dem socialist. Russ wants to know if I believe in aliens. I'll answer that in a second. All right. So, I guess we'll see what happens. But that is really interesting. That Republicans, now the Democratic establishment's abandonment of progressives, which they are doing, they'll continue to do it, now Republicans are using that to their marketing advantage. And maybe it will work. It might work. We'll see. It might work for Republicans. Yet another reason why it's time to abandon the Democratic establishment. Yet another reason why we're better off with a new party. Another reason. The fact that the Democratic establishment turns its back on progressives, Republicans are able to use that in their marketing. Because Republicans actually know how to win. Republicans like winning, and they know how to do it. Democrats, winning is their third or fourth priority. Their first priority, making sure the donors are happy. Second priority, stifling any type of progressive change, which makes the donors happy. Third or fourth priority, maybe we'll beat a Republican. Maybe not. If we don't, it's fine too. It's fine if we don't, because the gravy train keeps rolling. And now Republicans are using that to their marketing advantage. And it could very well work. It could very well turn people off to Ben Jealous. And this is another reason why we need a new party in this country desperately. Desperately. Getting back to Russ's question, do I believe in aliens? Now, it depends on what you mean by that. Do I believe that the Greys are out there and they can go like this and shock me? I don't think so. No. I mean, I can't say 100% for sure it's not out there, but I don't think so. I think something a little more substantial would have leaked by now if all of the claims surrounding Area 51 were legit. I feel like something bigger would have leaked by now. And, you know, of course you can see these videos on YouTube that are uploaded daily that are just, you know, make-believe. They're fun to watch, but they're make-believe. Now, do I believe there's something else out there? Absolutely. I find it almost impossible to entertain the idea that we are the only form of intelligent life out there in this vast, 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 vast universe that we've just scratched the surface of. I find it impossible to believe that there's not sustainable life. I mean, we've already found some life on other planets, like plant life and water and so forth. But I think there's certainly intelligent life out there. Now, from a belief standpoint, what I want to believe is that there's civilizations more advanced than us out there. I really do want to believe that. And what I like to believe is that they don't make contact with other civilizations until you've extinguished war. So and that's just my personal belief. Like I don't have anything to base that on. I would never like defend it on some grand stage. It's just what I like to believe. Some people like to believe there's an invisible man in the clouds that wants us all to be okay and cares about us. And if you believe that, that's fine. That's your belief. It gives you comfort. A belief I have that gives me comfort, I do think there's more intelligent life out there. And I think that they don't make contact with us until we extinguish war. That's their bar. So they're like, Earth, what's Earth up to? They still got war. All right, we ain't going to Earth. Maybe next year. We'll revisit this. We'll revisit this in 12 months. They're like, they ain't doing shit in 12 months. Well, we'll see. Maybe they will. Be an optimist. Like, I don't want to. No, I don't. So that's what I like to believe. And that's my thoughts on aliens. More advanced than us, that's a very low bar, Ron. I know, right? Well, that's why I find it easy to believe. It's part of the reason I find it really easy to believe. Natural Progressive has an announcement for all of us. Balthazar says, Venus is 864 degrees. How is universe cooling? Balthazar says, if a tree falls in the woods, does Pruitt orgasm? Probably. Balthazar, probably. Natural Progressive has a more serious announcement for us. Ron, please let people know that there is an open comment period on the Endangered Species Act right now through September 24th. Profit over planet. Thank you, Natural Progressive. That is important information. And guys, there is an open comment period going on. I'm sure she'll show more information in the chat. Please do what you can for that. Balthazar points out, imagine Trump meeting aliens. We have the best aliens. They come to us because they know the Earth is winning. Then Dems would oppose alien technology because they don't want Trump to get credit. That's funny. That's funny. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I mean, the people that think there's no way there's other, like, how do you think we're it? And honestly, the people, you know what's interesting to me? The people that believe that, the people that believe generally, and I'm generalizing here, the people that believe we're the only intelligent life out there, they're the people that believe in stuff like intelligent design, and that believe the Earth is 6,000 years old, and they believe in creationism and stuff like that. So what's interesting to me is that your belief in very extraordinary things prohibit you from believing other extraordinary things. Isn't that interesting? Like, your belief that there's some supreme being that loves us and created all this and gave us free will, and then we ate some forbidden fruit from a garden, and that's why things suck. Your belief in all that. And, you know, again, I don't believe that. I think those were just stories that were passed down and are supposed to have moral lessons for people. You know, people's belief in that allows them to not believe other things, like there's probably more intelligent life out there. And to me, it's a much more reasonable belief that there's other intelligent life out there. Because, again, we have evidence that the universe is this vast, expansive thing that we've just scratched the surface out of. And there's so much that we can't even wrap our heads around trying to explore yet. We know it's out there. So the chance that we're the only blip, we're the only thumbnail on this vast internet, quote unquote, that has intelligent life is so improbable. Meanwhile, is it probable that over the years people made up stories that are derivative of each other to kind of control poor people? Yeah, that's pretty probable. Anyway. And Chris points out, all the craziness, simulation theory comforts me. Hey, something comforts all of us. I'm not saying, you know, I'm no better than, you know, I take comfort in my beliefs just like everybody else does. I'm no different than anyone in that regard. I don't think any of us are. Because we're all human. All right. And let's see what else we got. Hang on, guys. I kind of got lost on the timeline here. Alright, this is another thing from Seawalk here. Let's see here. And this goes into police brutality. And Seawalk retweets Kamala Harris as a cop who says, "Why isn't he in jail?" So that's the preface for this one. Video of Baltimore officer beating man leads to cop's resignation. Alright, so let's see if we can see the video. It's not loading all that great for me. Alright. God, I hate CNN so much. I hate them so much. They have a million things going all at once when you try to watch something on their page or you try to read an article. I mean, it's... Oh, of course there's an advertisement. Of course there's a commercial.
Additional German racetrack to see what they think.
Sliding second row. Why? Magic lift gate. Not for the track.
Alright, so if you like to drive around in a spacesuit, you should buy an Infinity. Good commercial, guys. They know he's filming and they don't care. Look, they're still going. Wow. He has not been charged with a crime. The officer just beat this shit out of somebody who didn't do anything. The video starts with a man screaming in a police officer's face. For what? The man yells on a Baltimore sidewalk. The officer responds by shoving the man backward against a brick wall. Don't touch me. Then it gets really ugly. He beats the hell out of him. So that's where we came in. We came in with this guy. This police officer's beating the shit out of this guy for no reason. The officer starts throwing punches and continues pummeling the man for the next 12 seconds. That's what we watch. They both eventually fall to the ground. The officer is also black, the article points out. The police commissioner said he was deeply disturbed. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they were deeply disturbed. All right, so this guy resigned. All right, so what led up to this? The incident began around 11:45 a.m. while officers, all right, two officers encountered a man, and so they asked him for his identity for no reason. So that's what happened here. They asked for this man's identity for no reason. They're like, "What's your identity?" He's like, "Why do I have to tell you anything? I'm not doing anything." That's his right, by the way. That's his right. He has the right to just be like, I'm not doing anything. I'm going about my business. You can't just infringe on me like this. How does the cop respond? The cop beats the shit out of him. The cop beats the shit out of him. The man was charged with no crime. And this news, why would this news be surprising to anybody that it would happen to a black guy in Baltimore when we also have video footage of it happening to a white girl on the beach? Of course it's going to happen to, I mean, you know, look at everything that's been going on. Look at how racist our law enforcement is. Of course that can happen to a black person in Baltimore. It can happen to a white girl on the beach. A 20-year-old white girl on the beach who passes a breathalyzer and then the cop beats the shit out of her. Unreal. I mean, the guy was doing nothing. He was doing nothing. One of the officers recognized him. Hey, we want your ID, just for the hell of it. We're on some kind of crime watch. This is serving and protecting? And I mean, I feel like we don't even need to make different videos about police brutality at this point. We can just say the same things and then just insert the different names of who it's applying to this week or this day. Law enforcement is a systemic disease in this country. A systemic problem deserves a systemic solution. Or needs, not deserves, but needs a systemic solution. So when someone says, not all cops are bad, these are bad apples, tell them to put on a helmet and let the adults have a conversation. Because that is a straw man, and that is the laziest straw man that exists on this topic. When there is an outbreak of E. coli, you don't hold up a strand of lettuce and say, this lettuce is fine. No, you say there's a systemic problem. There's a systemic problem with law enforcement because they're not screened properly. Because members of the KKK are given badges and guns. They're not trained properly because they don't even know how to handle basic protests. In Ferguson, they entered protests with guns drawn. You don't do that. A lot of them suffer from extensive PTSD. They don't know how to handle real situations where there's real danger. They don't know how to do that. So they just start shooting things. And what penalties do they face when they do that? Nothing. Nothing. It is a systemic disease. And here's just another, for instance. Just a guy walking down the street. Give us your ID. Why should I do that? I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Same thing happened in my neighborhood. Guy named Chris Ballou. He was just minding his business. What crime did he commit? He had tinted windows. And he stood up for his rights. He demanded to see a commanding officer. He said, who is your commanding officer? The guy started beating the shit out of him. Well, he still said, you have no right to do this. Where's your commanding officer? You can go see that video. That happened in my neighborhood. And you know what's happened to those officers? Nothing. Nothing. They get paid vacations most of the time. And CNN really sucks with all their pop-ups. Side note, let me see what you guys are saying. Lone Star Progressive points out, yes, it is the culture. Chris Walker says certain cops love to take out their anger on poor citizens. Purple Nurple points out, do you ever see them shoot in the knee? They unload the entire clip into the chest. Yeah, they don't need... They never shoot to wound. Stable Genius Progressive. I'm sick of the whole there are a few bad apples theory about police. It's way worse than that. It is systemic corruption and a long culture of violence. Yes! Abso-freaking-lutely. Chili Love says cops should have to drive little clown cars and have only squirt guns. Remember, you know how like whenever we have some horrific instance of police brutality, we see something up in Canada where they're doing everything totally different? Like when we were having those brutal protests, or the protests weren't brutal. The protesters were being brutalized. That's what I meant. I'm sure you guys realize that, but the protesters were being brutalized. They had that meme of Canada where they were playing with squirt guns. The Canadian cop was playing with squirt guns with the citizens. And then when everything was going down with our immigration here and what ICE was doing, they're still doing it. They had that meme in Canada where the guy was like carrying a refugee and like holding like, hey, welcome. It's like they're rubbing it in our face. Come on, Canada. You're rubbing it in. Anyway. Guys, we are totally out of time, but I do want to end on this. Over on the Twitter, what's trending today is hashtag Left-Handers Day. It's Left-Handers Day over on Twitter. Now, I am left-handed. I'm a left-handed guy. And so if there's one piece of advice I can give to all my other lefties in the, I know in the other sense, we're pretty much all lefties here, but in the, this is the hand I favor sense, get a left-handed can opener. I'm telling you, left-handed can opener changed my freaking life. Opening a can was a battle for me for most of my life. I dreaded. I would see a can and I'd be like, left-handed can opener. It's amazing. You're like, this is how this is supposed to feel. It's awesome. And there is a store called Lefties in San Francisco. It is, to my knowledge, the only left-handed store that exists. So if you're in San Francisco and you're a left-handed person, it is worth the trip. And I'm just being real here. This is just me giving a PSA to my fellow left-handed people. This is not a sponsor. I'm telling you, though. Left-handed, do yourself the favor. Who is our sponsor, though? BetterHelp.com. They provide affordable online therapy. BetterHelp.com. What you do, you fill out a form online. You get matched up with a counselor. You do have access to that counselor 24/7. You do have online sessions with that counselor. A lot of people, their health insurance doesn't cover mental health. They can't afford to go to counseling. Well, this is an affordable alternative for you. BetterHelp.com. We talk about mental health a lot on this show. If you think you need help, please get it. BetterHelp.com can help you with that. And, of course, ZHIT.com. ZT. If you're in Austin, Texas, check out their store. If not, check out their tea anyway. Order it online because their tea kind of rules. And, guys, we are totally out of time. But, fellow lefties, left-handed can openers, man. I'm telling you. Don't, you'll thank me. Derek points this out. I got to check this. Even vending machine coin entry slots are designed for right-handers. Are they really? They have a recessed area on the right to make it easier to insert the coins for right hand. I've never noticed that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying when you're left-handed, you're so used to certain things that you don't really notice it. Like there's certain things. So I'll tell you guys this before we dismount here. My sister lives in San Francisco. So I mentioned there's that left-handed store there. 1 year for my birthday, my sister got me a bunch of left-handed items. And there were some things that I never even noticed. Like she gave me a left-handed spoon, like a big wooden spoon that was meant for left-handers. So and I never even realized this because it's just nothing I paid attention to. A lot of the stirring spoons that exist are meant for right-handed people. They're meant for people to stir it like this versus like this. I never noticed that. And I was always just kind of stirring against the current and never noticed it. And when I used the left-handed thing, it did feel so much better, but it was just, I was so not used to doing it that way that I just naturally stirred the other way anyway. So there's some things that they didn't really make a difference for me because I was just used to doing it the way where it's just harder for me as a left-handed person. But, can opener, oh man, changed my freaking life. Guys, we are out of time. I love you very much. Thank you so much for being part of this. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. That means you guys send me articles via Twitter or via Reddit, and that's how we build the show. Thank you so much for your participation today. Want to support this show on a sustainability level? Patreon.com/Ron Placone. For a pay what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. Little bit of last-minute housekeeping. November 2nd, Sacramento, California. I'm coming with Graham Elwood. November 3rd, San Francisco, California. I'm coming with Graham Elwood, and I'm going to stop at Lefties. November 23rd, I will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tickets for all those shows are available at ronplacone.com. Get them now. Get them often. I will see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, stay safe. Peace.